Happy Halloween. Leave now while you still can.
Leave now before Master finds you.
Who is that knocking at my door? Who is that knocking at my door? Who is that knocking at my door? Be gone with you.
Hello everyone, here I am back for another horror movie review with my father. Say hi, Dad.
Hi.
Actually, today's video it's going to be something a little bit special, double movie review, because both The Haunting of the Birds came out the same exact year, 1963. 60 years.
Wow.
Yeah. But here's how, well, first I want to talk about The Birds from Alfred Hitchcock. I've always wanted to talk about an Alfred Hitchcock on this channel ever since I started, so I guess perfect timing. What do you think of The Birds?
I think the Birds is a very strange, frightening movie.
Right.
There really is no explanation given to it. It's more of an observation of this strange activity, this strange behavior of this population of birds in this small town.
Yeah.
And of course, the way Alfred Hitchcock does it, it's very effective.
It is. No, I can agree 100% on that. It's like no explanation like why this is happening, and also like how you have these characters who are like questioning like why it is, and they think they have the answer, but they don't. And also there's like the tensions of like how like Tippi Hedren's character. Remember the part like when they're at the diner explaining everything. Then when the birds attack and that woman says, "You're the reason for all this." Not really. It's not really her fault. Like,
right.
Yeah. Like, why would you blame even though despite, her character, when we first see her, she works at a bird store, and we see how she's just doing a nice favor for the character Mitch of dropping off these lovebirds that he wanted as a very nice special gift for his sister, played by Veronica Carlson.
Cartwright.
Oh, you're right, Cartwright. You're right. Sorry, because thinking that she was an alien a decade later after this movie.
Mm-hmm.
When I was watching little behind the scenes and interviews of film historians and John Carpenter, and they gave a good point how this was somewhat inspirational for Spielberg's Jaws a decade later. The same approach, man versus nature, but instead it was a shark.
Yeah, I could see that parallel, yeah.
Also, Tremors I don't remember who directed Tremors.
Yeah, I don't know who directed it.
But I can see he took the same concept, but just in Tremors it was big giant snakes for no reason.
Right.
Did you ever see Tremors?
No, I never saw it.
Okay, it's pretty good. But I only saw parts of it a long time ago. Parts of what I saw was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, this will be surprised to read this, how supposedly it was based on a horror novel by Daphne du Maurier, if I'm saying it right. I don't know if you ever read that book or knew that.
I did not.
Right. Also, how supposedly Hitchcock also took an inspiration that happened in real life on August 18, 1961, in Capitola, California. Birds attacked residents and cars for no apparent reason.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't know that either.
which I never even thought that was even possible in real life. I mean, that's got to be a rare thing for birds attacking.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah. Because we all think of birds as these cute, innocent, and harmful things, but I guess maybe that's the whole point Hitchcock was pointing. Maybe we're wrong about that with birds.
Well, certainly some birds.
Well, some birds, yeah.
That, but the ones that were attacking were not the ones you usually expected to attack you.
Like seagulls or
the only time that seagulls I could think of would attack is if you had somebody was at the beach and had a bunch of bird seed and they could...
Right. I remember as a little kid, way before I saw this film, you probably don't remember this. I remember the first time seeing just a glimpse of it when you and Mom were watching on television. I come in, I'm asking for something because I wasn't allowed to watch it, but I came in, I don't remember why, I came in I wanted something. I remember seeing the birds attack, and as a kid, that kind of made me think, maybe afraid of birds for a little while because of, but any kid would be afraid of seeing that part in the movie with the birds attacking. Because I remember being in school the next day, I saw a bunch of birds. I was scared to go. Well, I really wouldn't go by birds anyway. That saying, don't mess with nature, or you don't bother them, they don't bother you, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you think of the characters in this movie?
Well, I think that it's interesting because you have the outsider that's played by Tippi Hedren.
Yeah, right.
And she kind of invades the quiet town.
Yeah.
And invades the family
yes.
of Rod Taylor.
Yes.
But and she's not really invading.
No,
but,
of course not.
Some people could see a parallel between that and the way the birds react.
Right.
She's kind of disrupting, the town in the sense that she's a very high class, very stylish woman.
Yeah.
And she's out of place in the
small town where they're like more laid back.
Right.
Sounds familiar where we live right now, but different.
Right.
We're not, but we don't have birds attacking.
No.
Yeah, and also like there's sexual tension where there's like a possible like romance between Tippi Hedren's character and Rob Taylor's character. And,
oh yeah, there's definitely
yeah, and also Jessica Tandy, the mother, is a little bit like hesitant. Doesn't seem to like the it's like another Psycho, but she's not as crazy as yeah. And this came out 3 years before Psycho because prior he did Psycho, which was a groundbreaking horror film for that time. Then he did decide another horror film, but did Man vs. Nature, and it was a different change up for a horror film.
There's also tension between Suzanne Pleshette and Tippi Hedren.
Yes.
Because, she has a thing, Suzanne Pleshette has a thing for Rod Taylor.
Right.
And there's some jealousy that goes on.
Right, well, obviously. I don't know, was that like an ex-girlfriend or just...
I think it was an ex-girlfriend.
Okay, yeah, I thought so, yeah. I remember, well, it's funny, I like seeing her in this film, thinking to myself, like, The Geisha Boy, where she was some kind of either flight attendant or worked in the military for, and sort of had a liking to Jerry Lewis, but Jerry Lewis liked that Asian woman who was, yeah. But here she is playing a more serious role, and then, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I can definitely agree. There definitely was some tension, jealousy, and stuff. But she wasn't really all like a bad character, despite.
No, not at all.
No, not at all. No, she was. I guess she was just like more like I guess again like you said, jealous about because they're still like a romance.
But she still had a relationship. I mean, they got along okay. She didn't do anything to try to hurt her.
No, not at all. That. Her death scene was like a shocker. I mean, well, a lot of like the scenes of like. Seeing like blood for that time in the 60s, like even though like Psycho had a little, well, that was obviously it was black and white and it was Hershey syrup he used to pour down the drain, but this is like in color you're seeing a little bit not gore where it's extreme and over the top like you see in like modern day like horrors today or what was become later that time in horror movies, especially that scene like when Jessica Tandy finds a dead guy in a room and the eyeballs, and then when I was just watching in the behind the scenes, think about Jaws a little bit, similar like when Hooper finds the guy and the guy's missing his eyeball, but different, of course.
Right.
Again, you see like the parallels to Jaws and also because like in Jaws and the Birds, they took place in an East Coast, like like near the water and and like where boats, etc. Yeah, and also like Hitchcock did not want he didn't want an explanation. He wanted the audiences to really be, which he does a great job of that.
Right. Another thing that's interesting about the movie is that there's no film score in it.
Right. Oh yeah, no, that's true. I never thought of it. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Bernard Herrmann had scored several of his films, and he went without a film score.
Right. Right. I guess maybe that was. I guess Hitchcock thought no music, and what makes it more scary, which definitely works. Especially when the birds are attacking the citizens, and that one scene like when they're at like the diner talking to other people, and they look outside, and that guy is like the gas is leaking, and a guy is smoking a cigarette, saying no, don't which
right.
But sadly the guy just, I guess maybe he was either deaf or just wasn't paying attention. He drops the cigarette lighter and boom.
Yeah, that's where Hitchcock uses what's called a hidden clock.
Right.
He's done that in other movies too.
Right.
And where everything is kind of leading up to something, and you don't know when it's going to happen, and you're hoping it doesn't, but it does.
Right. Yeah. Well, it sadly happened for that poor guy who was not really a known character, but just knowing that he was going to die because he didn't see the connection of the the gas leaking and how in smoke and gas can cause fire and explosions. Yeah. Also, like the way the film, it's like I think one of the best endings to a horror film. Again, another like cliffhanger ending where we don't know what's the like. That's the idea how Hitchcock was going for. It's up to your like this. It's like basically like, there's no like the end. Hitchcock like has this is like a like one of the few times in a film where it doesn't say the end. There's like you could say, I mean, yes, there's an ending, but there's no ending how we interpret it. Like we see it in our own like way as an audience of what happens to these characters.
Right. There's no resolution.
No.
It's very enigmatic. You really don't know what's going to happen after the end of the film.
Suppose I read there was more to it, but Hitchcock never filmed it for whatever reason. I forget.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I remember when I first like saw this on Blu-ray, I thought, oh, there's more deleted scenes, but no, it's just you're just reading the script instead of seeing this or some like still images giving you the sense what supposedly the longer ending could have been to this film.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, that scene, too, when she walks into the room, and like you said, Hitchcock did not even tell her that the birds were going to be attacked. She just went in, like, scared. It's so, like, believable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, after that, she's in severe shell shock, and she's afraid to leave. But what other choice did they have in that situation?
Mm-hmm.
And,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also, like I said, like, with the tension before, where Jessica Tandy didn't like Tippi Hedren's character, but, you know, she's in the car lying on her shoulder, and there's this, like, smile, like, okay, maybe now there's, like, a little bit of more respect for one another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, like, how I never realized how there was, like, such a, like, during the making of this film, how, like, there was beef and tension between Hitchcock and Tippi Hedren when they made this film, how, like, he was very, like, unprofessional, made sexual remarks at Tippi Hedren. Also, Tippi Hedren didn't really have an acting career because of Hitchcock ruining her reputation.
Yeah, that came out later on.
Yeah.
I was unaware of any of that.
No, I didn't know.
I'm sure everybody was until she came out and talked about it.
This was just like a thing about Hitchcock that's not now coming out now about how he was a sexual predator that we never realized.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also Tippi Hedren is related. If that's her, she is. It's funny. Her character's name is Melanie. Guess what? Her daughter's name is Melanie Griffith, and her granddaughter is Dakota Johnson, Melanie Griffith's daughter, and Don Johnson's daughter.
Right.
Yeah. It runs in the family. There's generation and generation. Yeah. But I don't know much about like what other things Melanie Griffith did in her career as an actress or. Well, Dakota Johnson, but but other than she did the 50 Shades film, which I have no interest to watch ever, and never review on my YouTube channel, but I'm sure she's done other things outside that are better than that.
Yeah, well, Melanie Griffith, I think, did Working Girl.
I saw that a long time ago.
Yeah,
it's been
years. She did other movies.
Right, I'm sure she did, but yeah. I just haven't paid attention to what other things that she did, and yeah. Also, to end this, did you know that there was a sequel to The Birds from the 90s?
No.
I didn't see it, so I can't really make a comment, but I watched James Rolfe's video on it. It doesn't... I'm probably never going to bother to check it out. It's like, what's the point of a sequel if there... Well, one, Hitchcock was long gone at that point, and Tippi Hedren came back, but they... It's either she's a different character or she changed her identity for that after that horrific event. So, again, no comments, so I'm probably never going to bother to check that out.
Okay.
All right, I guess that we've covered everything about The Birds. Now on to The Haunting from 1963, directed by Robert Wise. This is basically my third time reviewing a Robert Wise movie. I've done West Side Story video, and I did a video on The Day the Earth Stood Still. And yeah, also, what are your thoughts on The Haunting?
Well, The Haunting is a great example of a movie that is very skillfully made through the script and through the way the movie is filmed.
Right.
To build up psychological terror.
It does.
Without it being graphic at all.
No, there isn't.
There really is nothing in there that you would say, oh my God, this looks horrible, or that's disgusting. There's none of that at all.
Well, I'm a big fan of like the not seeing it, or it's like especially also, even when like it's very psychological, you still can feel that scary or still feel horrified because of like because you see how the character is going insane and losing her mind. You feel like you're losing your mind at times, and
this is a classic example of the unseen.
Right.
That's the horror of the unseen.
Right.
And it's very, very effective.
Absolutely.
And it really, you can't even compare this to the remake.
No, the remake was just garbage. But I'll admit though, like I remember when back when I used to watch Nostalgia Critic, he did a review on that was like my first exposure of learning about what the original was all about, and then I saw the original one. I think it was somewhere around maybe 2011. I don't really remember. It was around that time when I was like again expanding my horizon with other horror films I'd never seen, and I liked the original when I first saw it. But watching it, it's funny how like watching it at 19 and watching it at 30, it's like you have a different perspective. Now you see the bigger picture behind it. You're thinking, you know what? Now I understand this film more than I did when I was 19. You see the themes of like mental breakdown of like how, well, especially back in a time when mental health was not understood. There was no resources at that time.
Right.
And I also understand how like Julia Harris, the reason why she's drawn to this, she feels like she's welcome, not judged by the ghost. The ghosts don't like judge her for like her personality, where at home she feels like she's an outsider in her family.
Right, and she really is. There was a remark that was made by, I guess it was her brother-in-law.
Yeah. That was her sister.
Yeah, and then he said something about when she starts talking about different things, he's like, "Oh, now we're gonna bring out skeletons from the closet."
Right.
And that was something, mental illness was hidden. It was not something that was talked about because it was looked upon in a very derogatory way by society.
Yeah.
And people believed back then that it was just a person's weakness and they were weak and they couldn't fight their way through it.
Right.
Which is completely, that's completely unrealistic, and it's completely out of what mental illness actually is.
True. Especially in a weird, strange way. Like I found her, even though that was only the one scene where we see her sister, brother-in-law, and the nephew. I found her her brother-in-law and her sister kind of like jerks a little bit to some degree, and also her nephew was a little bit bratty. I hate to say it.
No, that's exactly you're right on all counts.
Right. No, it's true. They were really like very disrespectful to her. They really did not understand. That's why she was drawn to going to this like haunted house, like learning to discover ghosts. Maybe she'll find purpose and meaning there than she does at her real home. Yeah, and also because she also makes, and also in a strange way, maybe because she's been around her like family so much, it was a way for her to get out and maybe sort of like make connections and friends to a degree. Like how she meets Claire Bloom's character.
Right.
I think what was her character's name?
Theo.
Yeah, Theo, and like that brings up like like if there was hint of lesbianism in that throughout the entire film between the two, which was very which was not really like that was very rare to see that at that time, and
it was.
And they would not have come like unlike in the remake, she just comes out of it just like that. In the original, it's like not explained; it's just hinted throughout the entire film.
Well, at the time, that's not something that was presented in the movies.
No.
If anything, it was done in a very subdued way,
right?
Implied, but not overt.
Right.
And this movie is based on a book by an author, Shirley Jackson.
Yes. Did you read that?
I have not read the book, but I have read things by Shirley Jackson. One of the most popular things that she wrote is something called The Lottery.
Right. Interesting.
And that is a very, very creepy short story.
Right.
Something that I read when I was back in high school.
Right.
And I recommend it. Her writing is very good, and and she's an excellent author.
Yeah. The other thing I love about this film too is like the imagery to The Haunting. It's just like so like beautifully visually imagery and gothic like ghost atmosphere like and as we with talking about the Birds, in a way the way like Robert Wise shot this film, it feels like the Hitchcock to some degree. It makes you wonder, did Robert Wise watch Hitchcock films to like copy his style for the feel of the horrific atmosphere to this film?
Yeah, he probably did. Robert Wise goes back to Citizen Kane. He was an editor on Citizen Kane. Yes. And he also did work with Val Lewton, which was a series of films that was very much into psychological horror with little in the way of graphic effects.
Well, when he said that when he made this film, he paid this as tribute to Val Lewton because of being inspired about what you don't see is what makes it scary, and because Val Lewton was gone at that time around, like he died in somewhere in the 50s. I don't know what year exactly, and.
Right. Val Lewton, one of his famous films was Cat People.
Yes, which I reviewed last year on this channel, and still a great like effect of what he did for that film, Cat People, Val Lewton. Yeah. Also, the other thing that I find, like, Ross Tamblyn is in this film, and when I first saw it, I didn't see the connection, see that he was in this, because I remember him. Well, obviously, a lot of Twin Peaks fan would know him as Dr. Jacoby in Twin Peaks, Ross Tamblyn, and also. If you're a big musical fan, you know him as Riff in West Side Story. My guess is because of like maybe he had a good working relationship with him on West Side Story. That's why he did this film, possibly.
Could be.
Yeah, it could be. Just guessing, thinking on why. But I hate to say it, he's kind of a little bit a jerk. Well, a little bit at times a jerk because of how he makes insults and remarks at the ghosts. And I'm not an expert on the supernatural, but I learned don't mess with them and don't insult their intelligence either.
Well, that's his character. I mean, it was set up like that. He was supposed to be that way. He was described as somebody who was pretty arrogant.
Yeah, he was. Oh no, he was.
Yeah, so he played the role.
No, he did.
Appropriately.
He did. He did. Especially the way like when he touches Claire Bloom. It's like sexual remark right there. And even though despite again she was a lesbian and. What was that doctor's name that the one that was like doing the study of the ghost?
I think it was Mark one.
Yeah. What did you think of his character?
I thought he was an interesting character.
Yeah.
And he's somebody who specialized in the occult and in ghosts, and he wanted to do this to verify the presence of the supernatural.
Yeah. The other thing too is that unlike most like modern like horror films, like where a group of people are invited to this house for like no specific reason, they don't know what, they just think maybe it's just a nice getaway, but they don't really know the real like truth. In this movie, he admits that we're here to study ghosts.
Right.
Yeah. It's because I look at like prior to this like films like with William Castle's House on Haunted Hill and 13 Ghosts. Those were just like played for like laughs and gimmicks and comedy, whereas this and The Innocents were taken more seriously on like ghosts at that time.
Right.
Yeah. I could also see like maybe like Spielberg having some inspiration for this for like Poltergeist a little bit to some degree, but more on the graphic side than yeah. Still, Haunting is just an amazing film. Still like one of the best horror films, and also like I love I don't know if you know this, but I love ghost stories. Yeah. And like I said, watch this and skip that horrendous remake. That was just a piece of garbage and one of the worst horror remakes ever, and an insult. I don't know if you know this. Wes Craven was like in the middle of like directing, then he backed out. But then again, good thing he did back out. Wes Craven. Yeah. Also, I don't know if you know this. The Haunting was inspired. Well, Disney was inspired from The Haunting for their Haunting Mansion.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was just reading that on IMDb.com about how. Which if you like watch this and compare the rides, you can see a little inspiration for its haunted attraction.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Any other thing you want to touch upon for the Haunting that comes to mind?
No, I can't. That's. I think we covered it.
All right, that wraps up today's video. Like, subscribe, that bell button, get the latest updates on my YouTube channel, and stay tuned for more still good stuff coming. See you next time. Say bye, Dad.
Bye bye.